and good morning, and we really appreciate you all attending today. We put this together to help put a good demonstration of our work here for warehouse management, multi-bin, and the manufacturing automation and work order scan enhancements. Our solutions have worked together for quite some time today, up to now, and this is our first opportunity to finally get together and demonstrate it for everyone. So I'll kick this off, talk a little bit about multi-bin warehouse management features. Then Ron Jacobs will fall in behind me and discuss manufacturing automation, and then Joe Basaha will come in and discuss work order scan and other manufacturing tools that he provides. You're looking at right now a basic inventory maintenance screen and a multi-bin inventory screen, and where we're reflecting inventory in different bin locations. We try to give a good view here so you can put together where your inventory is and what purposes you have them for too. For example, I have inventory right now in a primary bin location. I have some in some pick area, and then overflow might be some of my back stock, and then staging. We use the staging locations in the setup of the warehouse code. Each warehouse code, you can set up staging locations. They can have different purposes. For example, shipping, receiving, for quality control, for return of goods, for quality control, for finished goods, and raw materials. And so the way we make use of this is there's options set in the system to refine how you want to use the system. Some businesses start off simple or use our system in the most simple way, and maybe they'll have all their bin locations in pick, and that's great. Other businesses try to take advantage of other features that we have that will help, not only help them help them find their inventory, but the system automates the selection of that inventory. The inventory can be on handhelds or on pick sheets, hard copy pick sheets. They can pick that inventory and ship it out. We can automate manufacturing too for raw materials and finished goods. Raw materials coming out of bin locations, perhaps they're coming out of regular bin locations like a primary bin location or staging location for your raw materials, and you want to pool certain raw materials in your productions and work orders and whatnot. The use of the WOScan, the work order scan, is great when you're doing material issues and you want to scan the goods right out of a bin location. The use of Ron Jacobs with the manufacturing automation can help you generate work orders from sales orders, process manufacturing to auto-generate many work orders, and there's features like scheduling and dashboard to help manage your work orders. So the little overview, and so just getting down deep here, and I sometimes start off with this place to give you a feel of a few things. So I'm looking at inventory for a allotted inventory item here, and you're seeing quantity on hand in different bin locations. On the left-hand side, we're giving you a view and what certain quantities are in certain regions and areas of your warehouse. So in the A pick area, I might have 104 pieces, but other zones in my warehouse, I might have less or more. We use this, the drill down, also for other things too. So you can have pallets or cartons in your warehouse and case packs. So for example, here you're looking in a staging area called ship, and I have some packaging going there, and I can drill down the contents of packages over here on the left-hand side. So we provide a summary on the left-hand side to give you a quick view of the management of your inventory, and there's some other quick nice things that I'll show you here in a minute for transferring, moving inventory around. So here I'm looking at my inventory in the middle, and you're seeing here, and then what I'll do is I'll click in here in the detail button, and you can see some inventory history transactions. One of the real nice things about having a good multi-bin warehouse management system is you can have good detailed history of all your transactions. You know who picks what goods, you know who transferred goods from one location to another, you know who reserved it for a sales order, and it can go on and on and on. Regular Mass 90 might just track one record on the sale of a transaction. we'll keep track of every bin location that the inventory comes out of. In fact, we keep track of the inventory that was selected for an order, and if it was changed by someone or anyone in the picking process or shipping process, we know that was what was done. And sometimes that's important to some and others not. Some nice features that we provide right on the screen is your ability to not only look at the inventory but transfer it around. We have what's called a quick transfer, so I can click on this button and move inventory from one location to another. I can also move inventory into an ID. An ID for us might be a case pack or a carton or pallet. So if you want to build up your inventory into an ID, it's very easy to do. We also have what's called a group transfer, and that gives you the ability to select a lot of inventory at the same time. So I click that button over there. I can select all this inventory real quick, select a destination bin location, or I can select a destination ID to put it all in, what have you. Some businesses might use a bin location to keep track of pallets or other things for their inventory, and here too I can use that quick transfer and select all this inventory and move it from one location to another. So all in all, what happens is when we provide the tools that help ease the process using the system, moving inventory around and looking at it and viewing it and so on. So another feature that we provide in the system is your ability to restrict access to inventory, and sometimes that's great for quality control. So like here, I'm in the bin location. Actually, let me shift over to like a quality control bin location, and we provide this option that says disallow selection in sales order. And if I were to go to quantity tab, I can see what kind of inventory I have in there. And over here, if I am looking at inventory from the item perspective, I can see that it's disabled, and that little red mark is telling me it's disabled from sales order. Why would I do that? Goods were just returned. They haven't been checked out yet, or maybe it's in production. They're finished goods. You put them into a location which you're restricting. Another good one might be a staging location for certain customers. Like I have this one set up here for my infamous customer, Avnet. And what we do is we provide the ability to select a customer number with the bin location. Actually, you can select a customer type too. And what happens is that will restrict or reserve inventory just for that customer. So what you can do is then as you sell goods, you can select that location on sales orders or automatically assign it from customers, the customer number. And so the inventory that you have reserved just for this one customer will go to that customer only. If we reduce the net quantity available in sales order so for the other customers, but it's only available to that customer, like I said. So then another feature that we do in the locations is the ability to define the capacity of a location. So if we were to view inventory and say, hey, we issued a purchase order, and then we can produce a put-away report just from setup in the system. You haven't received the goods in yet, and by purchase order number, you can produce a put-away report. We can also receive the goods, receive it into like a staging location, and print this put-away report. I'll go in here and I'll select warehouse. And in this case, I have these goods and they're sitting in the receiving dock. And based on settings I have in the system, it's advising where to put these goods away. In this case, on a particular purchase order, I have the AM/FM radio selected there, and it's putting in the staging location just for that customer. So the system recognizes that you have the sales order field and purchase order entry, and when you print the put away, the system is advising you to put the goods there. There's other features too. So there's options to say, well, I want to keep just only one item in a certain location, or one lot number in certain locations, or maybe The system is going to just put goods away in the next open bin location next to where it last received it. So I know I'm running on a lot of features here, but just to show you a couple options is in the setup of both the product line and the items, you can designate regular zones in your warehouse, which we call regions, or regular aisles in the warehouse where you want your goods to go. If I go in directed put away options, here I have options that are just showing here that disallow mix of lots and locations and so on. So in here is put into shipping dock if you have back orders too. So some customers view this as maybe a phase 2, phase 3, or no implementation of putting the goods away, but these are options built into the system for you. On the sales side of things, we're really good about directed picking and printing inventory on a pick sheet. So if I were to pull up this one sales order here, and here I have these different items on here. Actually, let me step back and go into the setup of the system. In the setup of our pick sheets, you have options whether or not you want to allocate inventory, or if you just want to pick reserved inventory for that sales order on the pick sheet. Some businesses like to print what's reserved for the sales order and also available inventory on the pick sheets. We have options, different templates of how you want to present it. We have a built-in wave pick sheet, so it goes in bin location order, and there's a user-defined order too, that you don't have to just go by bin location. And then we have what we call directed pick options. Directed pick options might say, look, pull my inventory out of primary bin locations first. If you don't have primary bin locations, that's fine. And then how do you want to handle the rest of your inventory? Some businesses, for their lotted inventory, like to go the lowest lot number or their earliest receipt date. We have special features for what we call expiration date for date-sensitive inventory, and you can do that in FIFO order, first expired, first out. And then maybe even in bin location order, the system keeps track of when goods go into a bin location, and it keeps track of it even as you move the inventory around. And so you can also age your inventory and get the oldest inventory out first based on the receipt date when you receive that inventory. We help break down different areas of the warehouse. Perhaps there's sections of the warehouse you don't want to, or prioritize your inventory, or maybe some businesses don't want to go ahead and get inventory out of the overflow, or maybe you just want to get goods out of the overflow when you just have a large order. And these are options that you can set up. When you first turn on the system, it comes up on a very easy fashion, and if you want to get into it and refine the options, you can. You have these options. You can change it right down to each inventory item if you desire. There's also options for case packs. You might want the largest case pack sold. So you have and I have a good example in this one item here, maybe this one here. Now, in this case, you can see that I have some individual inventory here in my primary bin location of 279 pieces, and then there's some other inventory in other pick locations, and then I have some larger inventory in master packs and other case packs over here. So the system can help you sell the largest case pack in for your orders. And you might choose to do that, and that's just an option built in. So back to the sales order I pulled up earlier, this is just a simple sales order. If I were to print the sales order, and by the way, we always present to you what's out reserved for each item here on the sales order. And in this case, I'm printing a wave pick sheet. It's allocating the inventory. We're telling you if it's coming out of primary bin locations and so on. It didn't allocate it for this one item. Here, if I were to pull up this one item, oops, 254, because that's reserved for another customer, for my AVNet. So this is not for AVNet, and so it didn't give it to this other customer. Another way of, that's of course doing a pick sheet right from picking sheet printing. If I were to go into pick a range of sales orders, which is commonplace, I'm sure most do this already, is select a range of sales orders and let the system calculate those goods for these orders. In this case, this is a sale of just this one item here, and this is a sale of 1,000 units for this one customer, and it optimized the best case packs. Actually, there's sold 3 pallets and 1 master pack. And so we're telling you that you could go ahead and pick the full pallet for each one of these. Next order here, it's just pulling, it retrieved the oldest inventory. I think I had the option set to select the oldest lot number, and it did there, and it's a couple case packs and so on. And there's some more. And here it drew some inventory on a regular order from a primary bin location for this item and this item over here, and so on. Oh, and this item right here is my Avnet order, and let me select that order here real quick. This one I have, this one I selected to not have very much inventory. So here I had 50 pieces, and there was no inventory available. So what I can do is I can print a put-away report and see that see where my inventory is there, because I seem to remember that I did have it, and here it was sitting in receiving, and so I can move my inventory from receiving to my staging location and subsequently ship it out. So the system tries to help you. Oh, and I got into an order there. Let me get out of that there. Wants to reflect that I was in the order. Okay, so the system helps you reserve inventory that you want to pick to save time walking through the warehouse and through the warehouse for your orders, and it can also get the best inventory that you want to ship out too. For manufacturing, we have a number of enhancements that assist in production of goods and tracking the expiration dates and which goods to sell based on their shelf life. So what I did is I switched over to my manufacturing company over here. And first of all, if I could show you our vendor lot traceability report, this is a nice report. It's instinctive to our system. So in other words, for manufacturers that have lots, it's great because you can just receive in your lots. You can produce sub-assemblies that are lotted, oriented, and finished goods that are lotted. And then if you have any information on a recall, by the vendor lot number, you can select your inventory or your own lot number. So for example, this is a pizza company, produces goods. Oh, that's selected dough. I meant to select flour. Let's see, I have flour. Let's see, try that one more time here on flour. Here I take flour, I mix it into dough, and then my finished goods for that I produce. The system tells you who you've sold the goods to and all your inventory for the raw material where that lot from the vendor has been produced into. And there's nothing special you have to do in the system. All you have to do is use lot valuation in your inventory. If you have serialized goods, there is a way to do that also with other software that we have. Some businesses who want to produce goods into, so if you're producing goods because you're doing a make-to-order or because your process company and you're building to inventory, we provide features that help you both. So for make-to-order situations, you might produce goods right into a staging location, which might be just for quality control, or maybe you want to build it right into the customer's bin location. If you saw if you recall, the bin location that I had just for that Avnet customer. That will reserve the goods right away. The other ways, some of the other features that we provide in the system is, actually, let me back up to options here one more time before I get right in there. And I could show you these options right here. These are options that are in the system that help assign locations to your inventory. Some businesses just select the bin locations as they go. Using the RF handheld from WOScan really helps in selecting goods as you go on material issues. If you're doing backflush or automatic issues, perhaps you want to be a little bit more lazy about it and faster, and we provide the ability for you to do that, to select inventory beforehand, before you produce the goods, or of course, as regular Math 90 does, after you produce the goods. And so you have the ability to automatically assign a bin location as you do transactions. Like I said, the backflush and auto issues. And then the selection of a bin location might come from a warehouse staging location, like, and I never took you in there, but in the setup of a warehouse for the finished goods. So what you can also do is override it. You can put select a location right in your bill or your work order, so that it will go exactly to the location you want it to. Before I select the bill here, I'll pull it up here real quick. I'll pull up Blueberry, and I use this sometimes. So if I want to track the expiration date, I can default the calculation of when the goods expire, and that might be 90 days out. And then as I produce the goods here for Blueberry, and actually I'll get out of it there. And in this case, it defaulted the finished goods bin location because that's the option I set in there. It defaulted the expiration date of the lot for me also. Of course, I can override it. I can produce pallets and cartons within the pallets if I want. In this case, I'll just generate this. And so it's putting 500 pieces in 2 pallets for me. I could drill down and so on there. And then as I go to lines here, it's auto-allocating, automatically getting goods for raw materials for me. So here, I've got my flour, and it selected 250 pieces. I do have a lot of inventory here for flour, and it did grab the oldest expire date, which is null, basically. So the goods that are expired, it will skip. And that's a good example of sauce right down here. And if I show all my inventory here, you can see that that's expired a long time ago. So it did, by default, skip that. In this case, I'll just override it and select it. Some of the features that we provide is a tag report or tag labels that you can print and put on the pallets to show all the goods that are on there, and so on. And then going over to, and I should mention that in picking sheet printing, one of the ways that we give you the ability to print pick sheets for goods that you've reserved. So in this case, I just did this production entry for Blueberry. And I can select, and you might recognize this is a new field here in picking sheet printing. So I can actually select the production number and then print it. And it will print the selected inventory on the pick sheet for me. So this is what it reserved on the pick sheet, I'm sorry, reserved in my production entry for me. And so the normal usage, of course, is to print a pick sheet, printing the available inventory. You can still do that before fact. But here we're giving you the additional feature of reserving, allocating the inventory ahead of time, and then printing a pick sheet and go after it. Maybe you want to get the oldest goods first, or what have you. And but anyway, that's a nice feature at times. Also, what we do is we give you the ability to track your inventory for bill of materials. Sometimes we take this for granted, but it's sort of a nice feature. So you can see here, if I drill down to what's allocated, you can see in this bill of material production entry here, 448, I have a regular item here that's, I think the battery is an average costed item that's reserved in this transaction. I could turn on batching in either work order or bill of materials, and so I can allocate my inventory and still reserve it. So that's about it for my presentation. I really appreciate you coming. I'm going to shift it over to Ron Jacobs, who's going to talk a little bit about the manufacturing automation features for dashboards, make to order, and so on. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm here to demo our new manufacturing automation, formerly known as WOEP or WOOP, which stood for Work Order Efficiency Package. If you're familiar with the old package, it really was just some work order efficiencies and our make to order. Now we basically have that efficiency base with some additional add-ons, along with additional add-ons to the make to order, but we also have outside processing, scheduling, and auto generation of POs. So we got a short time to cover a lot of this, so I'm really just going to try to go over the highlights, and so why don't we just go ahead and get started. One of the things, I'm just going to show you a few of the older things. We allow you to enter work orders in release mode, so if you're processing like with the WOScan system, usually you'll have your issue method set at manual. But if you were obviously doing automatics, then you would want to be firm clamming those up and then releasing them later. But just to go ahead and show you how quickly work orders can get processed in this manner, we could basically set up released, put in a work order, put in a quantity, and basically hit our auto finish button, which basically takes you through operations and scheduling and makes it a little quicker to go through. We can also, at this point, if you like, quick print the work order. Instead of having to go to the traveler printing, you could do the quick print right from here, which makes it a lot more efficient too. Okay, I'm going to get to the build availability later. We do provide it here, but that's part more of the make to order. So once again, it's just a real simple operation to get through here. Besides being able to enter released work orders at work order entry, oh, and by the way, we allow you to delete released work orders for standard MAS 90, requires you just to close it out, just as long as we haven't posted anything in the WIP, so there haven't been any processing gone on it yet. But once again, besides entering released work orders here, we allow you to either auto-generate work orders from the sales order level, or you can auto-generate work orders from our batch mode, where you can do multiple orders at one time. And then we also have a new feature to allow you to auto-generate work orders from projections. We have some people out there that have some end users that maintain a big spreadsheet of what their projected work orders that they need to make. So we'll go ahead and let you use a XLS CSV file, and you just have to follow our column formats, and then we'll go ahead and auto-generate those for you. And you'll see later that we allow you to create sub-assemblies on those auto-generations, enter them in release mode, and some other little features too. But why don't I just go ahead and just jump right into sales order, so you could just kind of see it being done there first, and then we'll show the other screen. Okay, so from within lines, I have a few options up here. One, I could take a look at build availability. So here I have I'm looking to make this board. I've got an order of 450. So I can go ahead and click on my build availability button, and this is going to go ahead and bring up a screen. I'm going to put it in summarize mode, but it basically brings up your finished good. Here's what you're planning to build, and it gives you some detailed information in terms of on-hand availability, demand and supply information. And then you can basically come down here. Before we get looking at the components, we provide an available to promise number for you. And it's just, we gave you a few different features here to look at depending on what you want to determine what your availability to promise is. In other words, well, you have 123 on hand. Do you want to promise based on that? Well, you know, some of these are reserved for other people, so you might not want to utilize that. Availability-based, available to promise, well, obviously, we've got a lot of demand, and we don't consider supply as part of availability, so, you know, we don't have enough there. Build-based is based on how many of this supply right here is actually make to inventory. Because anything in this number that's make to order is really reserved for another order. But if I've got enough here make to inventory, then I could promise these 450, and in my example here, I have enough. And then the last example would be component-based, and that's based on my available short number here. And before I had the 450 come in here, these were really positive numbers. So basically, from what I basically have available is I can make, you know, I think if you take the smallest number out here, we can compute that. I can make 42 out of what I currently have on hand, less what's allocated already out on other work orders. So that's your availability base. Now, if you're on the phone with your customer and he wanted to know if you could make these, you might want to be telling them, hey, I can give you 450 because I've got some others out there on make the inventory. If I didn't have this, you might say, hey, I only got 42 I can make out of my current componentries, but you could then go ahead and click on this future button here, and this kind of lists out all the shortages that we have. Here's all the POs and what the quantities are coming in on those POs with the expected dates. And then here's all the items that are the components with their primary vendors and with what if I order today, what the lead times are on those vendors and when I would be able to expect to receive that in. So it's just kind of a little worksheet here to help you decide whether you're able to promise this information up. Also, you know, we've got some other buttons over here for you to be able to drill down into other features. Obviously, we can drill down to the item file here. At this point, we even are drilling down to the POs that are on order. So you can see the promise dates. I think you saw those on the future screen. But anyways, with all of that, it's just basically an assistance to help you know what you've got available to build this item. This build availability is in the sales order lines. It's also a choice on the main work order menu, and you saw it. I also had it there on the work order entry screen too. We also have with our auto-generate purchase orders that you've got the ability for it to go out there and auto-generate purchase orders just for this given build availability. So you've got the ability to click on this button. It's going to go out there and look at what you've already done on order, less what you're short, so it's only going to do the difference. And at this point, we could just generate POs to the primary vendors for these guys. We also provide an edit button that lets you come out here and change the vendor or the quantity or costs. You get to see some of your replenishment detail here and some of the other information. But once again, you could go and actually generate POs just for this demand if you so desire. But I am going to not do that and clear it out. Okay. All right, so let's say you did want to make work orders for this. So you can go ahead and click on this button here. It prompts you if you'd like to create them. In options, we have it whether you want to get prompted or we'll just go ahead and auto-create the sub-assemblies. But let's say we're going to go ahead and create them. We have a new feature called Use Max Lot Size, which, if you're familiar with bill of materials, there's a max lot size a field in there where you can specify. This one has a max lot of 200. So if I wanted to utilize this, then it would really make 3 work orders for this line, one at 200, another at 200, and one at 50, along with those subsequent sub-assemblies. But I'm going to go ahead and answer no to this. It's going to go out there and generate the work orders for you. It's linked this work order for this finished good of 450. If I want to look at the detail, I've got a detail link button here. This is going to basically show it's making 450 for this board. I've got a sub-assembly, which is the memory card. It requires 2 of them. So, and then if there's a yield percentage here, so instead of a pure 900, it needs to make 910 because of the yield. I think the yield's 98%. So once again, you see all the detail here right on this screen. If I wanted to do the same for this one, let's say this one, I decide to go ahead and not do sub-assemblies but do the max slot feature, then you're going to see that this one now labels it as max slot. because there's multiple work orders that are created out there for that. And then you'll basically see that it did 200, because this also has a max slot of 200. So it did 200 on this work order and 200 on that work order. So now these are linked together. So if I tried to auto-generate from one of my other programs, I basically can't generate because they're linked together. We try not to allow duplications there. Okay, if you wanted to do it a different way, you'd be able to come out here and do our auto-generate work orders from sales orders. And from within here, you could put a range of orders in by order number or order dates, however you want to do it. We've got it set to auto-release. We have it set to do manual in our options area, but you can do it otherwise. But obviously, if you're utilizing the WOScan system, then you'd want to be doing your release work orders manually. We let you decide if you want to do backward or forward scheduling. We also have UDF assignments so that you can actually assign these to each individual item. If some items are backward scheduling, some are forward scheduling. If you want to utilize our feature called Summarize Like Items, then we basically take it out of a make-to-order situation and create make-to-inventory. So, for example, if I'm reading through a group of sales orders and their respective lines, and I have 50 on one and 25 on another and 10 on another, so that would be a quantity of 85 for a similar finished good item, I can make the inventory one work order for 85. Now, if you do choose this choice, we then open up the ability to do replenishment handling on that finished good. So what we'll do is we'll look at availability. Maybe, let's say you've got 10 on hand. So maybe I should only make 75 instead of the 85. And then also if you have a replenishment detail like reorder points, or you have mins and maxes and however you structure that, we might look at that. And for example, let's say you've got 10 available and your reorder point set at 50. Well, then I really would want to make 40 to get you back to your reorder point and then make the 85. So I'm obviously going to make, what is that, 125 or so, right? So once again, it's up to you how you want to utilize the utility. And if you do create sub-assemblies, it's going to ask for the replenishment handling on that if you like that too. And then here's the use max slot feature. So once again, this will go out there and create all the work orders in what we call a batch mode. And then the other option would obviously be to do it from projection. So the choice is yours if you want to do this from a delimited file and bring those in that format too. Okay, one quick thing on those. Your finished goods have to be procurement type make, and there has to be a routing. And generally, everyone has a routing assigned to the bill of material. If you're not using bill of materials, we'll still create work orders. You just have to have the routing assigned in the item master file. We also work with UDF. So we have a UDF called make-to, and that make-to UDF you could set to order or stock. And that way, if you have certain items that are make-to-order and certain items that are make-to-stock, we can skip the make-to-stock items and only do the make-to-order. All right, I'm going to jump around here a little fast. I'm going to now show you another one of our efficiency add-ons, which is our work order dashboard, which is a real nice launch pad that you can use instead of being in work order inquiry or work order entry. But anyways, you could basically change your selections. You could come down here and just look at released. You could come down here and choose other filters to try to minimize the data you want to kind of look at. We let you click on any of these columns so you can sort them in any order. So I could sort this by schedule release date if I so will choose. We allow you in custom office to go ahead and move these columns around if you want to move this column over here more so and the like. So we have a lot of information that we display on this screen. So we just decided to push some of the other information a little farther over. But once again, we try to group things together, like the dates together with the lead time, the ordered, planned, completed, scrapped all together. But, once again, you can filter this as you please and sort it as you please. We also allow drill downs here, obviously, to your materials, your operations, your transactions, right to the item inquiry screen. If it's a make sales order, the sales order button lights up. You could put travelers right from here. You could drill down into work order inquiry. And then each of these other each of these others drill down even farther into the system. So I'll show you those here in a sec. One new field you'll notice here is the last status description. We have operational step status codes, and we're working in conjunction with WOScan right now to have those being added to his system too. But basically, it's just status codes that you could set up to each of your operational steps so that you could track those steps with the description. So for right now, I've kind of set most of mine up for my outside processing features, but you can go ahead and set up however you'd like to use them. So for example, you know, I know this job, this is, since I'm on the work order header level, the last thing performed on this one is I know that it's in plating right now. But if I drill down to operations, you'll see that here I really had, it really went into heat treating, came back from heat treating, and now is in plating. So, you know, once again, your operational step status tracking is really done at each step of the job, but we also display the last current one that you have there. You'll notice here, too, that I'm going to just kind of jump right into our outside processing add-on. What we do is we color code the lines. So if any of your operational steps are outside processing, when the work order gets created, they're all set up in green. And then as a purchase order is auto-generated for those outside processing lines, it turns to blue. And then once the receipts have come in and it's been finalized, it turns to red. So you can see that I've got heat treating done. I'm currently in plating, and my next step would be paint the computer. So that's kind of how we flow. And then once again, we do have drill downs, like I told you, in each of these screens. We'll have a drill down to another drill down. Here you can see, and I'll get to this later, you can drill down into scheduling on any of the operational steps. But here I can drill down right into the purchase order. Here's the purchase order that got created, and I can actually see the purchase order. And this drill down is in work order entry also, so you can see it. One thing I wanted to show you, because I'm not going to actually go generate a purchase order because we're limited on time, but what we do is we bring, with UDF handling, you could bring in the parent item code. I just didn't put the UDF on this prior to generating this one, but that way your outside processing vendor can see the parent item code along with it. We bring in all the descriptives from the step description, the extended step description, so that he's got proper instructions to know what he needs to bring. And you can basically use any type of item that you so desire to create that with. And you can also, if you're using a regular inventory item, you can actually say you want the quantity from the work order, the quantity per parent and its extension, to be brought right from that work order line into the purchase order so that it can get processed accordingly. Okay, real quick, I know I'm starting to run out of time here. Here are those status codes, real simple file to set up. Just build however many you want so you can utilize those, and they get all processed through labor transactions, except for the outside processing. Those all get processed through when POs are generated. So if I come out here and I look at my heat treating, you'll see that Standard Mass has this outside processing work center. Once that's checked, we provide you a vendors button. From the vendors button, you could set up multiple vendors and have one assigned to be a default. Here's where the statuses are to auto-generate the status when you generate the PO, and then when the receipt of goods is processed, to auto-generate that status. You can go into the detail here, and here's where you could set up all your items, decide which operational codes are all to utilize, use your own descriptions or use the extended descriptions like I state here. You can use the finished good quantity. Say I'm making 450, I could take 450 times the 1, extend this out onto the PO. And once again, if this was a regular item, you'd want to use, you could potentially use the work order quantity to generate it. But once again, miscellaneous items, miscellaneous charges, I'm using a special item. Regular items, comment lines, whatever you want generated on that PO, you can have that generated on that PO. You'll notice here that I'm going to now go into scheduling. we've now added finite load handling to the work order module. So standard Mass 90 assumed every work center was infinite load. So they just assumed that you'd be able to grab more bodies and just throw more bodies to get something done, or you had to try to reschedule your work. So we've made it so that you can now assign certain work centers as finite load work centers. And for that, we provide the ability to have a work center dashboard. Now, you can also drill down into this dashboard right from the work order dashboard on those operational steps, and from work order entry, we have a drill down to this dashboard from any operational step too. But you can basically come up in here and choose a work center, and I went ahead and chose today's date. Up in this upper box view, you see that I can see that the 26th is a Wednesday. I've got 16 summarized hours. I could double click on any of these days. I could move the calendar forward and backward. So this upper window here gives you more of a summarized view. In here, it's basically telling you, which work orders are on for that day. And then when you click on this one work order, it's going to show you that this actually has 13 hours today, but it's actually scheduled also for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, because I think this might be my work order where I created 450 for that one finished good. You have the ability to, sort these columns. You can use your control key to choose, multiples. And for that reason, by choosing that with your control keys, you could come out here and reschedule things. You could forward and backward scheduling, choose a new schedule, and push that out. Just know that when you push something out, that it's going to push out everything that's after this step and reschedule that also. We give you a nice little 7-day view window so that you can click on this and you can see, okay, on Wednesday, here's my standard hours. Since this is a finite load, it loaded me up real nice and even. And so I'm at 100% capacity here and so forth. So as you're doing your work, you can always take a look at this 7-day window to see how you're doing in terms of meeting your capacities. One other nice new feature we added, and this is also off the setup work order menu, that we allow you to drill down into this given day and even get to the range of days if you want to override this Wednesday of 16 hours. Let's say, you're able to perform 20 hours on this day. Or let's say that you want to reduce the efficiency percentage because it's not working today at 100% capacity. You want to bring it down to 75, which will reduce the hours. Or any of these other choices that you're going to want to have down in here, you could actually do. And so this upper box here is by day, and then we allow you a range entry. So I could even say, hey, from the 26th to March 5th, increase the hours to 20 hours. And that way it'll bump the hours up for you to basically do the work. So in my example, let's say I do an extra 20, or I actually override 20 hours here. I go ahead and get out of here. You're going to see that it changed Wednesday to 20 hours. It changed this in blue. And you're going to notice that your capacity percentage is now 80 because you've got 20 hours for this day. So once again, it's for increasing and decreasing. So, when you go back in here and take a look at it, now I have 20 hours for this one given day. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to change the schedule, move the schedule around, use the schedule. Once again, trying to give you a little bit more in that area. I know I've gone over, Joe. I apologize. I'm not going to go into the auto-generated POs, but you could auto-generate POs directly for work orders and for exact quantities. You can then auto-generate POs for inventory, which takes into account availability and your replenishment handling. And one thing I skipped, if your vendor comes in once a week to pick up his outside processing orders, you could auto-generate POs for outside work centers instead of having to do them one by one on a work order basis. Okay, guys, sorry I was fast, but there's so much to show and so little time in our demonstration today. Okay, Joe, you're on.
Alrighty. All right, so basically we've seen all kinds of cool stuff in mass, how to get control of our data better, obviously making the warehouse more efficient, getting work order more efficient, being able to control work order from a generation and a detail like Ron Jacobs had shown you. Now what we're going to do is show you basically now that after Mass has it all done and it's ready to hit the floor, this is where we kick in. This is where we basically show you how easy it is to track, because one of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that we can't make work order dynamic. Well, if Ron Chomp didn't show you how cool it is and Ron Jacobs didn't push you over the edge of the boat, I'm definitely going to do it on this one, where we're going to make this completely live and completely dynamic. So releasing work orders, outside processes, everything you've seen so far, we will pick it up as soon as the job is released. Obviously, with work order efficiency package, it's immediately when you generate the work order if you want it to be. The job is now ready for production and it hits the floor. Basically, as you can see from our situation here, we have a couple different features and availabilities open to work order. The top line are the transactions, usually the primary transactions that are done on the floor. Basically, your material issues, your labor tracking, your completions. We do tie into Ron Jacobs' efficiency package in a couple details, including statuses, closing work orders, stuff like that, partial completions, costing methods, stuff like that, which Ron will be able to get into, which Ron did show you. We also have a time card feature for any payroll people that want to keep track of that with the same system as their labor. We can be batch issuing or batch labor tracking for people that are grouping and scheduling jobs together, like Ron had shown you. We can actually track them together as well, diluting labor, diluting the material issues if you want to. We also have a QC module now, so you can start tracking QC information, collecting very important shop floor data information, linking it to work orders, to employees, to work centers, to opcodes, to parent items, whatever makes sense in your QC world. And then the best part is actually the live review screens and the dashboards, not just to show you what you planned and what was scheduled, but what is actually happening. Ours married with Ron's make a complete package. Ron shows you what you're scheduled for, what you've been capacity for, what you want to do. Ours will show you what you are doing, what's happening on the floor, what's been tracked in, what's been issued, and then we pass that all back to Ron nice and neat, and he shows you your percentages and your efficiencies. So basically, real quick, from a transactional standpoint, for those of you who have not seen how easy this is, we're going to do some transactions. Very easily, we have a touch screen, or we can have PCs on the floor with a mouse and a scanning gun. You could have like the touch screens where you see like point of sales, or the cool pads mounted to the wall, or supervisors might be walking around with tablets, stuff like that. Or you might have a mobile device gun if you have like a Motorola, like what the UPS guy has. It doesn't matter. We can load this on anything out on your shop floor to collect. Very simply, you click on a screen. It brings you into a screen. You here would then scan your work order. You would scan the item you're issuing. You would pick a bin location, and as you can see, Ron showed you in inventory what was available. We have the same options. We can pick from the bin locations, or default the staging bin to what was defaulted for the item, or for the work center if you'd like to as well. So we can default or pick. We enter how many pieces we want to issue out, and pretty much a transaction is that quickly. So as you can see, issuing material is not hard. Again, from a scanning standpoint, if you scan stuff that's not on work orders, it says, hey, it's not on the work order. Because we are validating to Mass and the work order modules are multi-bin live, it will tell us if we have it or we don't have it. So the chances of you doing something you shouldn't be is going to be slim. We can add items on the fly for those of you who do a little bit more make-to-order, more job shop environments. We can actually now release work orders blank to the floor with just the generic list of steps, but with no material. We can actually issue material on the fly. We can build the route if we want to. We can substitute items. Maybe you do release it with a bill of material, but you have substitute items. We can do substitutes. We will update the work order for you. The day of you having to update the work order is now gone. You'll also notice another ability. We have an import file. We can actually now import bills of material on the fly. We can import them right into material issues. So for those of you that have CAD programs or one-off jobs that you don't want to create bills for all the time, you can import dynamically on the fly, which is kind of cool. We can also do stuff like negative issues, putting material back in the inventory if we want to from a bin location or just regular into Mass. So we can do negative issues if we wanted to and put stuff in. So for material options, we have a bunch of cool features. We also have the ability to auto-issue. We have a front flush option where you can issue before you start the job, like a pick and pack scenario. We have the ability of triggering back flushes off our completion screens. So if you want to, you could be doing completions here. When you do a completion here, we will automatically trigger the back flush for you. We can also trigger back flushes from labor track. If you track in on a step and you enter how many pieces you processed on those steps, we will issue material from those steps in the quantity that you enter. So we have a lot of cool transactions there. Moving forward, labor transactions is as simple as scanning your badge, scan your work order, and hitting accept. You're just tracked into a job. You can see there's a lot of other cool features. 2 minutes, 2 hours later, the guy walks over, he scans back off his work order. We now can do step complete, or with Ron's add-on, we can change this to statuses. We can change statuses. We can also do a one-step status change, which will be coming out here very soon. We can track quantity complete. We can also be tracking downtime or non-productive time. So not only can we track labor on a job, but we can also track non-productive labor. Maybe machine downtime or material or labor constraint time or setup or cleanup or training where you really want to get your hands wrapped around what those guys are doing on the floor. We can track that as well. At any given time, we can do a lookup. We can see what's going on. We can have a dashboard with these are with labor review rules. These are rules that are in effect because we can see labor live. These terminals are talking to each other, so you're not batch mode anymore like in mass. As you start tracking, everything is dynamic, so we're going to be able to see anything going on. For those of you that do completions, this is how hard it is to do a completion from the floor. You scan it, you enter how many pieces you're completing, you hit accept. That's a completion transaction. In that transaction, there's all kinds of cool stuff you can do. You can complete the inventory, sales orders, work orders. You can also scrap from completion transactions. We can change parent items on the fly. We can actually complete a different parent item. We can change bin locations, warehouses. We can print labels. We can do all kinds of stuff now in a completion transaction. So as we're doing all the completions, the big thing we have left is the work order review. The work order review is your live dashboard to the real world. This is monitoring everything on your floor. Who's doing what? What are they tracked into from a labor standpoint? What have they completed? What have they touched? What downtimes? We can see everything from labor, productive or non-productive, material issues happening on the floor, completions as they're being done. These are all live transactions that you can be watching real time. You can be watching these transactions and monitoring and edit them remotely instead of walking out on the floor. If you want to, you can come over here. You can go ahead and enter your password in, and you can start remotely editing and monitoring any transactions. Sending it into mass, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, basically I can go ahead and send, yep, I like my material completions, I like my issues, I like my labor, I want to process it all back into mass. It leaves, mass will go ahead and grab it. We have a sync process that runs either manually or automatic, that's totally up to you. It brings it in. We can bring it in, we go to work order transaction entry, I do a lookup, there's my batch. We could create the batch, we could post the batch, there's our issues, there's our labor, there's our completions. So not only can we see our issues, but we can drill all the way down into the multi-bin layer itself with distributions, with multi-bin locations, or whatever the case may be, and as well as going all the way into a completion transaction with the bin locations as well. So as you can see, we all integrate together. It all ties back in a nice little package. From the releasing of the work orders, from the multi-bin standpoint for inventory, for all those cool features, from the manufacturing enhancements, clear down to tracking it on the shop floor live, knowing where all your stuff is. And one more quick tie-in for the outside processing. Ron shows that. This dashboard can also be reviewed. You can bring the dashboard up. We can have filtering tools on outside processes and work centers. And you can have a live dashboard that if you want to track turnaround times, how long it went out, what is out, hasn't come back. You can monitor those screens as well as ours. Shows you everything from that standpoint. One last thing real quick, because I know I'm a minute over. We have a QC module. Again, QC transactions can be completed. It's as simple as scanning your work order, scanning your badge, using pass-fail information, capturing any type of information you want, linking it to the work order, validating against MAS 90, work order, inventory, employees, whatever the case may be, and tracking that pertinent information, tying it back to MAS, using it for reports, crystal reports, specs, QC sheets, forms, and everything else. So fast talking, high information. Hopefully you guys had some good stuff that you saw here, and I'm going to turn it back to Adrian for the wrap-up.
Thank you, Joe. Great presentation. It's obvious you are an expert. You went through that very clearly and fast. I thank everybody for joining us today. We did have a couple polls that I'd like to launch while I'm reading questions. If we could just go through these polls real quick. Are you interested in learning more about Sage 100 manufacturing automation? If you could answer that question, audience, we would really appreciate it. And we have a couple questions here. Is there a way to track vendor lot for standard cost valuation items? Thank you, Clark, for your question.
Good question. No, not at this time.
And any...
It is for lot serial valuations only.
Okay. Any feature to identify the manufacturing vendor versus the purchase vendor in manufacturing item number? Item numbers that qualify for this mass item? Is that clear?
If that was for me, it may be validating which items are required to track the vendor lot number or the expiration date. Sometimes customers are concerned about that, but there's really no extra way of doing it. Many businesses just set the parameters in there to automatically put the information in, or it's required on other items.
And we did have a couple requests for the recording and presentation, and we will get an email out with the link to the contact information for the presenters of this presentation, and with the recording link on YouTube so that you can view or share with others. And thank everybody. I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us one more time. And Ron Jacobs, Ron Chomp, Joe Basaha, would you like to close with anything?
We appreciate you coming. Joe, since you were cut short, why don't you go ahead?
Oh, that's fine. No, that's fine. Like I said, we're hoping that we passed on the fact we may not have covered everything. There's so much stuff that we can now show you in work order. What we really wanted to do was to make sure we got you excited in the stuff that we did show you, and make sure you please follow up with us for more of a deep dive, maybe individually in the 3 pieces or all together. Again, that's up to you. But hopefully we've shown you enough to make you excited, get you going on the next level, and definitely please contact us for more detailed information if you need it.
Perfect. Thank you, you guys. Great presentation, and we will be in touch with everybody that attended and registered. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.